All right, so thanks everybody for showing up. This is the October 2020 meeting for Rocky Mountain Rugby Referees. We're going to talk about writing a referee report and citation. We're going to talk about Aspen, the Aspen that was. We're going to talk about confirming appointments. And then we're going to talk about a topic on education. The topic that we're going to have is communication. It's going to be a real brief level of communication, but the regional development group was able to go through it. I will then send out the PowerPoint so that way everybody can watch the videos at their leisure. But that's our short little topic. So we're going to start right off with Mr. Martin Brown, who's our disciplinary person. And I'll also pull up this, I'm going to share my screen here and talk about what Martin has.
Okay, thank you. This arose because there were some issues over the summer, which I think hopefully we've been able to resolve. But our committee report is not exactly the same as the report that you fill out when you send in the record, or why you gave the yellow card or the red card. And in particular, we don't have in the union report to the disciplinary committee the names of both teams. I think that it's important to have the names of both teams, largely because some teams don't like each other. And that usually becomes evident over the course of some months. For example, no, I won't use Queen City. That'd be bad form.
Everybody loves Queen City.
Everybody loves Queen City. Thank you, Joe. So I like to get both names of the teams participating in the match. And by the way, what I've got in my form is because of we do more than just the teams that are playing, but also other incidents that might not occur during the game itself, but are referred to as by the union. It is important from our point of view that you get the player's name and the SIP number. And I have to tell you, if you look at the second page, yeah, you still check the team rosters for the SIP numbers. I think that's important to have this. The people should be SIP'd. I think that disappeared to some extent during the pandemic, but for the beginning from this season on, or this coming season on, we've nearly finished this season, haven't we? Then it's going into the spring. It's really important that I think we have everybody SIP'd, because if you've got the SIP number, then there's a way of following up with the USAFU as to if somebody's been sent off, USAFU will, with the SIP number, will be able to track it. Hopefully, I'm not saying that USAFU is remarkably efficient on following up stuff, but I think they try, and even though the pandemic has really made a mess of their organization in some ways, I think that it's important that you get the SIP numbers, because I have a horrible feeling that for some of the summer teams, they weren't SIP'd. And if they're not SIP'd, what happens in the event of a catastrophic injury? And does everybody play totally without insurance? Or is there some form of insurance, at least through USAFU these days? But tell me, I don't know what's happening, but do we have insurance through the USAFU for the players?
It's through SIP.
Through
And
SIP.
if you're refereeing a league match, you should be all players should be SIP'd. you're not responsible for someone that's like cross-referencing numbers or anything like that, but definitely, you know,
The problem is that if they're not sipped and they get badly injured, and let's face it, you may not have dealt with a broken neck, but I had one some many years ago in Aspen, and that really threw me for a loop. It was not exactly the most exciting time of my life. You really need to make sure that they are sipped, because if somebody is injured and they're not sipped, they're basically on their own, I think, unless they bring an action against somebody. And guess who will have the deep pockets, gentlemen? Would be Zevon, for example. But I joke not, because you don't want to be in the position where you're going to be sued because the player wasn't sipped, and therefore somehow it was your fault. So it's important that you get everybody sipped. One of the things, number one on the second page, what I've got stated is, what was the tenor of the game? Did the foul play come out of the blue, or the teams going at it from the get-go? And you know, what I've had sometimes is such a bare bones report that it's been difficult to work out what the heck happened.
hold on a second. Mark brought up a good point. We're not don't actually use the word SIP. Use the term USA Rugby registration number. I guess people don't understand what that means. That's an antiquated term. There you go, registration number.
You have the registration number now?
I guess that's the term.
Yeah, I'm being left behind, clearly left behind. But the thing is, I'll need, hold on, have you got a ballpoint, somebody? I'm going to change the form. Registration number is the right one?
I guess that's what Mark's telling me.
Right, the form is now being changed. Thanks. So, very often, the penalty that is given for foul play arose out of circumstances which occurred earlier in the game, or even if perhaps the two teams didn't like each other. I recall early in my refereeing days, some many years ago, where suddenly two scrums stood up and started to punch each other. And I was being monitored by Jerry Van Valkenburg, who was, I think at that time, B panel referee. And I said to Jerry after the game, what the hell was that about? And Jerry said, basically, look, it's nothing that you did. You were just refereeing normally. That's okay, you're doing fine. But sometimes teams don't like each other and they decide to punch each other, which is not a good thing. And I think it's a bit more of the Wild West in those days than it is today. But if it's not a bad idea, if you know the two teams, to find out, have a chat with the captains first, do your normal pre-match warm-up, which I guess you guys do, right?
Yes.
Right.
Do.
And talk to them about foul play and the like.
What's the level of detail that you're looking for when it comes to our report? Like, are you looking for, blue player, like, can we say colors, or do you want the team names? Do you want to say what position they're playing, or just the number? It was a right hook, or he just punched the guy. What's the...
Well, let's have a look at the first and foremost. What we haven't got in the form at the moment is the name of the teams participating in the match. And I think that it's important that you put the names of the teams participating in the match in your report, so that if your report says we're to say blue team blah, 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 and the red team in response did X. I'd much prefer to have, say, the outside center of the blue team, which was named such and such, decided to throw a punch at forward in the red team, which was such and such. In other words, but you, as I've said in my form, I prefer the names of the teams participating in the match be stated at the beginning. And if you're going to refer to them as the red team or the blue team, identify who's the red and who's the blue, because otherwise I don't know, or the disciplinary committee doesn't know. And when you're dealing with a report which names only one team, then the other team is a mystery. And that's, I prefer not to have mysteries in the thing. So, in one of the reports I had some time ago, there was some first 5 or 6 lines of the report included items relating to a player getting into it with a spectator. But it wasn't the player that ultimately received the red card. So if a player gets into something with a spectator, I think you have an obligation to deal with it. But if you didn't see it, but you later heard that that red player got into a deal with the spectator, I don't want to hear it in the report. It's got nothing to do with the incident which occurred. It's important that you focus on the incident itself, except in the event of it being a pattern of behavior by the team. In that case, it might be relevant, but if a team is continually committing what might be called aggravation, aggro, you really need to deal with it during the game. Don't leave it till something actually occurs. If somebody's being chippy, deal with it, shut them up. No, who's allowed to talk? Captains. Anybody else? Not really. So if somebody else is going bip, 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 and they're not the captain, then you need to shut them up and say, hey, come on, get on with the game. Let's do this, let's do that. As I say, if you mention stuff such as an argument between a player and a spectator, which occurred in one of our reports some time ago, what was your response to it? If you saw it, I think it's important that you deal with it, because potential flashpoints are at any point in the game, and there's absolutely no need for anyone to just ignore it. Okay. And I say, for one thing, paragraph 4, if there's an issue with words being exchanged as part of your game management, what should you do? I think it's that time the referee should basically shut up and get on with the game and use his whistle. At that point, I think you have to say, hey, cut it out, boys, that's enough, no bullshit, come on, get on with the game. Because I think at that time you're allowed to talk, but who wants to hear a referee talk throughout the whole bloody game? You become extraneous noise, you become a distraction rather than a help to the players. And my view is that the least said, soonest mended. You don't get involved in just yappity, 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 yap. Forget about it. One of the problems that I've seen, and this is paragraph E, the ad hoc summer teams. I don't know who the team was it. Echo Mountain. They're not a regular team during the rest of the season, and they're a sort of ad hoc team as far as I can gather. But I really wonder how many of them were sipped, how many of them were, you know, playing for other teams. No, yes, you're waving at me, Joe.
No, there it is. There was an invite team from other clubs.
Okay, an invite team
Some
from other
local,
clubs.
some out of state.
Some from out of state.
Yeah.
Okay, were they all zipped? sipped or whatever. What do you call them?
Registered.
Registered. Were they registered? I mean, if they're not registered, why are they playing? Why are you putting your wonderful bodies on the line to referee a bunch of yahoos who aren't registered? You've got to be registered. You've got to make sure that the players are registered. Because if I worry about the liability of refs getting involved in a game where they're not really well organized, and it's how can I say it?
What would you like to see in the report?
I'm
Okay.
the real topic was what's the level of detail? What have you seen in the reports that might be missing? Like, how important is it that the proximity of the referee to the incident?
Did he see it?
Okay, but like if he saw it from 2 meters
Yeah.
or 15 or 40,
Oh, wait on. 2 meters, you've seen it.
yeah,
15 or 5, is there anybody in between? To what extent are you able to determine what happened? If you're in for 40, there's a lot of stuff that can get in your way
For
at
sure.
40. And you don't really, you might want to think twice about giving a red card for something like from 40 yards away, unless you have a totally uninterrupted, unobstructed view.
right. And then and also making sure that if you have assistant referees, actual assistant referees, folks, signed by the society or other societal aspect, not just touch judges, make sure that they fill out their reports as well, right?
Yeah,
Like, and because that's corroborate. What's the word that I'm looking for?
Team of three.
Corroborating witness.
corroborating.
And then what's the time frame? So say you do a 1 p.m. game on Saturday. When do you want the full report sent in? Or at least a notice that it's going to come in.
I'm not, unless it's at a tournament where something has to be done that day because
Yeah.
it's going to be playing on the Saturday.
Yeah,
But although that's very simple, if somebody gets a red card on a Saturday, they don't play on the Sunday.
yeah,
Okay, so getting something on the Sunday or the Monday is okay.
okay,
But what I get is when I get a report for a red card, I send it off to the coach of the teams and asking them for their comment. And if I have the address of the email address of the player, which is always happy to have it, sometimes you can't get, I'd send it to them too. But I usually send it off, the notice off to the teams themselves.
that's what you're going to do, or when so I'm talking about specifically for Rocky Mountain rugby referees played in the RMR or Rugby Colorado area. They fill out their red card report,
Yeah,
and that gets sent to, you want that sent to,
it's sent to, actually, they're actually being sent to me, Charlie Haupt, and Mike.
okay, sorry. What is what email address do you want that sent to?
Law, LAW, @nzbrown.com.
Folks, that'll be posted in the email address that comes out at the end of this, once I have it.
Yeah.
So right now, we fill it in also.
Yeah, you fill it into the ref up form, but it is imperative that you let somebody know that a red card has occurred. I don't get an email that states, hey, somebody has filled this out. It goes into the system, and then I have to look to see if there's something in the hopper.
Get automatic notice.
Mm-mm, I don't think so.
Is that something you could talk to Steve Gore about?
Yeah, we're gonna work on it, but
Yeah.
as it stands right now, please make sure that the executive committee sees the fact that something has come.
Yep.
and then you'll fill it out in a timely manner. We suggest 24 hours. I believe that we require 48 hours. So
You've
that
got to have
way,
it within 48 hours, because what I have to do,
yeah,
I have to email the
Right.
coach or president of the club,
yeah,
of the offending players club, of this is the report that we've got, this is, the copy is attached.
mhm,
I want to know, does he admit it? Does he deny it?
yeah.
And if he admits it, we'll just deal with it disciplinary. If he says, I didn't do it that way, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
Then we've got to set a hearing, and we want to set a hearing as soon as we can.
It's also important, I mean, just as for referee development, if you see that the teams are videotaping, recording the game, you should try to get a copy of that, but especially if you have a red card. So I didn't have a red card this weekend, but I did have a player that got backboarded off the field. So I made sure to get access to that. So that way, if they requested a citation, they haven't, that we could proffer the video.
Yeah.
So I know that we're outside the window for that. So I'm happy to report that I don't have to worry about it.
Mhm.
Are there any questions?
Oh, the one final point is,
Yep.
is the captain of the team has got to be upfront and cooperative. One of the problems that we had on one team some time ago was the captain was sort of, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. You know, the captain's really got to take some responsibility for what's going on the field with his team. And he's got to be upfront about what he's seen, and you hopefully that the captain will do what he needs to do.
But so, I mean, overall, that it sounds a lot like for the referee, it's you fill out your report with as much detail as possible.
That's relevant.
Relevant detail that's possible as possible. So even though in your ref up report, you think that it's already set with all the team names and stuff, make sure that you declare the team names. And if you're going to refer to them by color later in the first reference, so Santa Fe brackets red was playing against Highlanders brackets black. And then you can talk about red and black throughout the red.
But if you don't do that,
But if you don't do that, it's very confusing.
and then I don't know what the
They're
other
not
team
there.
is.
Are there any questions from the online peanut gallery or anybody in the room here?
So this front page titled Disciplinary Committee, Judicial Officer Hearing Report, this should serve as a template for the reports that the referee would write.
It sounds a lot like this should
No, this
be,
is our,
yeah.
this is
your
our
stuff.
form.
This is what he's trying to do is have you teach to the test. This is the test. So fill out your dialogue so that with all of this information.
Answers all
And
the
so
questions.
that way you can answer the questions when they read your dialogue. If you find that in your dialogue, you're missing something, then you should go back and add to that. Any questions? Great. Thanks, Martin.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you all.
Stop
Why
sharing
you
my
took on this
screen.
job is beyond me, guys.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
you have meet interesting people such as Devin here, who I've known for many,
105.
many years.
our next topic is
He's being efficient. See you guys.
Thank you.
Aspen. Oh, thanks, Martin. You
So
just
I'll
leave now.
disappear. You
All right.
don't need me
Cool.
any longer. I'll put
Appreciate
my
it.
all,
Thank
but I
you.
don't need it.
Mark, if you would like to talk about the Aspen that was.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We put up a pretty successful Aspen. We kind of brought back a little bit of a change, whereas we ran it more of like a societal reward for helping us out during the pandemic. And those who did the lion's share of the assignments when we were down numbers got rewarded with an invitation to Aspen. We brought up ARs for every game of the week. There was a little bit of games on Thursdays. I think maybe 6 or 8 games, and got some exchanges going. And we ran a CMO1 course, to which Rocky Mountain now has 11 new coaches and match officials, which is great. So together with the RDOs and Paul Pettit, the referee coach manager, we will be creating some opportunities to go out there and coach. The table was set during the CMO1 for creating a safe space and a supportive environment by Amanda Cox, who was a guest coach. And it really set the standard for a good, supportive weekend. Every referee that was invited and went up there really took a positive attitude to do what they can to make the event greater, and all sarcasm and belittling and making fun of each other was gone. So that was my biggest takeaway of the weekend, is we just all supported each other and made the event better by each of our actions. So kudos to everyone. The competition, all the games were pretty competitive on the open and over 40s division, and the refereeing was excellent with so many coaches. I do apologize for working everyone to death. You didn't get a lot of time to drink any of the beer and eat any of the food, but hopefully everyone who took part of the tournament got something out of it. The final was an amazing final. Those who left early, I understand your need to get down the hill, but it was really one of the best finals, and it was refereed for the first time in its history of a tournament by a female referee, which is awesome. And Kat Roach did a great job with it. And that's not to say that the other people who did finals also did well. So some of the bad news, I guess, going forward, like, we're taking every Aspen Ruggerfest 1 year at a time, because there's all kinds of rumors and speculation that it could happen, it could not happen. So going forward, if we do get the pleasure to have another one, consider it a blessing. Talking with the executive committee, I think because the tournament was so competitive, that we will kind of be putting together a list of referees that are really doing the work. Referees and coaches are really doing the work, writing good reports, making good goals, taking fitness tests, bidding on things, supporting each other. And again, we're going to continue with like a group of referees who are positive and supporting each other and are willing to learn and go the extra mile. Yeah, and it was nice to have a full kit provided. I think we looked really professional with everyone, when we could, wearing the complete kit. So I think we're going to try and make that a challenge, or that change effect, for as many years as we can. Does anyone have any questions or anything? Great.
Yeah, I want to add on to that. Both Mark and Paul did a fantastic job putting the whole thing together. We came, we saw, we conquered, as much as referees can. Kept it under control, kept as much as we could on time, and all that jazz. Paul, do you have any additional comments for those that were not in attendance at the tournament to pass along?
No, other than thanks for taking the lion's share of all the matches that came up and shouldn't have come up during Ruggerfest weekend. Appreciate covering as many of those games as we did with limited referees that stayed behind and did that. So much appreciate that. And thanks to everyone that did come and contributed. It was a great weekend.
Yeah, great.
One thing I did want to mention, it was kind of refreshing that, like, we used to have the standard of like, hey, bring up 2 cases of beer and punish people with a drinking culture. And it's very refreshing that we've eliminated that. So I think kind of going forward, instead of a case of beer, it's bring up a dish to share. I think that really worked out well. A lot of people brought up some dishes, and from people that can't afford Aspen because it's not getting cheaper up there, with the exception of that CP burger place. It's nice to be able to sit down and have a meal with your friends and not have to go spend $90 on a burger. So look forward to that.
And also that the fine that we started levying was 2 different ones. So if you forgot your mascot, it was burpees. And if you were late to a meeting, it was you started doing a plank based on how long you were late for. So those 2 things kind of show the change that we're trying to involve with the referee culture here, is making sure that everybody's fit. One of the things that I tried to involve, and we're not going to go down this route again, but was trying to get us to be some of the fittest people on the field. And the challenge that I always gave to my to teams that I talked with was, don't let the referee be the fittest on the field, where I was trying to battle for that position. So, any last ditch comments? All right. Last bit, second to last bit that we've got is Paul. Paul, if you want to talk to us about match confirmation as we get into the true heart of the season here through October and mid-December.
I know I sent an email out recently about this, but I just want to reiterate. Match confirmations are important, as everyone knows, and has already happened a couple of times this year. Referee shows up to a game that was canceled and didn't know it was canceled because there was no match confirmation. That's just one of many things that can happen. And it's inconvenient for you as the referee. It's inconvenient for everyone to determine, why was it canceled, who gets reimbursed, et cetera. So, it just helps everyone out, both the teams and us, to have that communication once you're assigned as a referee. If you don't hear anything by Thursday evening or Friday morning, please email or text or call me so that I can send something to the teams to get them to comply. It's important. I don't want someone to not go because of a lack of communication. So I at least give them the opportunity to comply. If they don't comply by Saturday morning and you still have no idea, then I'll leave it up to you. If you want to try to contact them yourself, maybe you know someone there. But at that point, no confirmation was done, and then they won't be with the referee. Every team by now knows they need to confirm. Most teams say they forgot, or there's a new match secretary, or some other thing or another. And with my little communication, they do end up complying. So I appreciate those that have been letting me know. Again, Thursday night or Friday morning, Friday night, because I'm not gonna. It's kind of late by that point, and if I'm not around, then it's not necessarily an emergency on my part either. So, on that note, when they do respond with confirmation, there's a template on our website that you can respond with if you don't have it already, asking them, rosters, scoreboards, and finally ropes. For those that don't know, ropes are important, at least on the side on both sides. If you have spectators on both sides, we need to start enforcing it. It wouldn't have helped anything with the situation I'm in right now, but my wife's knee is broken in 2 places due to a sideline tackle that went right into her this weekend. The I'm late because I just got back from a CT and MRI, so I'm not sure about surgery yet, but the ropes wouldn't necessarily have helped, but there were no ropes on that side. So if it were anybody else, a different spectator or something like that, then both the union, the teams, and I don't think us, but people are open for liability in that case. So let's kind of reinforce the Russell ropes in our confirmation emails back to the teams. And if they don't have them, do whatever you can. If they only have one side, then just get all their spectators and all that to that side. And that being said, it's more your protection, but theirs as well. So that's all I've got about that. Any questions
on that, Paul? When you show up to the game and you meet the person who did the confirmation, hopefully on Wednesday evening, thank them for it. That goes a long way.
Yes, that's true. Yep. And then it gets a little bit more personal communication with the teams too. So, yep.
Yeah, the other thing is also when you get the confirmation, make sure you forward it to your ARs and your coach.
Yeah. And also, respond back, I think that if you're just, you're going to be at Infinity Park Turf Field, you're not the first game of the day and you're not the last game of the day, you might make the assumption that it's all going to be set up. So you don't send the thank you. They're looking for that response back because they might have sent it to, not through Ref Up per se, because that auto populates and it goes to your Ref Up email, but sometimes they misspell your email and then they might type it in wrong and then it goes to the wrong spot and you're like, I never got confirmation. And then they're thinking that you did. So communication is a two-way street, which it brings, that's called a segue, folks. That brings us to the topic, the education bit of the day. So I'm going to share my screen. So this was the first regional development group, our first session. The session was on communication. We're not going to watch the videos because the audio is kind of tough, and also based on internet capabilities, I'd rather have you watch the whole thing because it's mostly communication. But we talked about respect. How do you earn respect? Communication is a two-way street. And whenever you open your mouth or don't open your mouth in a game, you add and subtract to the bank that is the other team. Some people have a long history with teams. Some people don't have a history with team. And sometimes that new ref smell is a positive, but also you're starting at zero. You're not in the negative, but you're also not in the positive. So when you mess up, you're immediately going into the negative. You're going into debt. So the pre-match. What are some things that you can do for both in your actions and your words that can create a positive atmosphere already? Anybody?
Immediately acknowledge the minute you get on the pitch for the teams who you are, that you'd like to have set up the times, have the conversations with the captains.
Right. And then what about the timing of that? Are you trying to do that? Like, are you rolling up 5 minutes before the game, or are you so I shoot for 90 minutes before a match. I know that's a little bit excessive, but I also typically don't just show up in my match gear. I'll wear a polo shirt or, you know, nice shorts or something. So that way I look presentable, kind of class B, a class B kind of outfit to show up, because it kind of shows the level of professionalism that I'm trying to portray. 90 minutes prior, I go up to the coach, I immediately shake their hand and I ask when's good. And if they say right now, hell yeah, I'll take it. If they're, you know, and that's the pre-match chat. Well, is everybody scripted with what their front row is? With their front row chat? Or is it based on the day? You kind of have some extemporaneous talking points.
You have a script, as you put it, but you should be flexible with it too. If you know that you've got some rookies in there that are going to be playing in their first, second, third match in front row, you have to adjust your talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you know that you're doing two senior men's sides, two senior women's sides, and you're 99% positive that everybody, including the reserves, knows what's going on, you can make it short and sweet.
Yeah.
Get out of their hair.
Yeah, you're not going to change behavior in the pre-match chat, especially if you're doing it during their warm-up. They're thinking about doing their warm-up and the reps that they're missing. If you're doing it over an hour ahead of time, they're going to start to concentrate on you. But hey, make sure that you get your elbow up. Yeah, I'm not going to remember that in 70 minutes. You're just trying to tell them the expectation, some key phrases, right? 3 words, 3 actions done by you. Crouch, bind, set. The one thing that I do try to get in is I'm going to make a vertical mark, hookers, right foot to the left of the mark. And I try to cut out as much additional chat. And I don't want to, I don't make jokes. They don't want to talk to you. And truthfully, I don't want to talk to them right now, because we're not adding to the balance. We only can subtract at this point. How do you talk to the captains? So you have your front row chat, and then you have to talk to both captains. Does anybody have any key points that they hammer home? And people online, feel free to unmute yourself and bring it up respectfully.
Yeah, it's just, I tend to have more like the high school and the B-side matches, and I just emphasize with the captains at the chat when they come together that you guys are leading your team. Said, I'll work with you. You got questions, come to me. But I expect you to relay everything back to the team, and then they come through you concerns. So just keep everything come through you, take ownership of your team.
So with those B-side and high school captains, do you find yourself kind of attempting to elevate
That's what
them
I'm trying to make them
and give them,
more ownership of their side. I don't know if they get to do it often or not.
right?
That I don't really know. So I try to give them that respect to show this is your chance to shine a little bit.
Right. And with captains, do you try to facilitate a dialogue to start, or are you in that chat, you're elevating them? Are you talking to them in that elevated kind of form?
I don't know what that means, but yeah, it's like,
I think what Joe's after here is you talk to them, not at them.
Right.
You talk with them.
Yeah.
Better that.
Start
better that.
communication.
Talk with them instead of to or at them.
Yeah.
And that will foster that respect. It'll earn you some respect in return. And it'll do what Don is saying is let them know, help them own it.
I try to start the dialogue with the captain. Typically for a coin toss, right? Like you're going to grab one captain, you have just told the other captain, hey, meet me here. You're grabbing the other guy. And in that way, I'm not making jokes, but I'm starting the dialogue process. I am somebody that if you have a worry, you can come talk to me about it in the match and make sure that I like Don's idea of elevating a captain, making sure that they understand that they are first of many, and that kind of thing, because you don't want to be talking at them. So speaking to players, most players just want us to speak to them as we would want to be spoken to. So that kind of goes off the idea of the talking at somebody as opposed to talking with somebody. Now, being introspective amongst yourselves, do you always do this? Do you find that you talk at players? Do you scold them? Right now, so I am 33 years old. I'm starting to get to players are still first grade. Like you'll get some first grade players that are my age or maybe a little bit older, but not that much older. So there is a bit of a dynamic with that, with the people that we have in the room right now. You're probably talking to players that could be your son or grandson. Yeah. Sorry, or great grandson. Kidding.
Martin's gone.
Yeah. So think about that level of dynamic. People always talk about Nigel Owens being this great referee, but think about he's got so many points in the bank that when he gets to put his little quip in, he is withdrawing. He's withdrawing from that bank. And the community as a whole is like, ha ha ha, great one, Nigel. But the player is getting word whipped by him. Which is something that you'll see in the videos when you go through and watch it. But there are times that you need to be firm.
Yes.
One of the topics is that it's here but no further, right? We've gotten to here. Further means something else. And you don't want to be, ruinous to them, but at the same time, they have to understand, right? In the videos, you'll really listen to the referee talk about the tone. Is he being treated as an equal or as a lesser? When he's being firm, is he actually being firm, or is he being dismissive? A captain might come up to you and say, sir or ma'am, number 4 just is punching players at the bottom of rucks, or bit somebody, right? Well, I didn't see the bite. I can't make a decision based off of teeth marks because you might have bit yourself or one of your teammates might have bit you. There's nothing that I can do about that. But some players just want to be heard. And you can be heard and still say, I understand, that is my job. I'm going to watch the offside line. But at this point, I don't believe that there has been any offsides that have been material. Players don't understand materiality, and that's okay. when we all watch video, especially ones with audio pickup, there might be the cameraman that's running the stick, right? That's flicking it back and forth, and he's talking with his friend because he's drinking a beer or something like that, or he's talking to somebody about how he blew out his ACL, and that's why he's running the camera today instead of running out on the field. That is a key indicator for us on how you're being perceived, right? We all like to watch when we go to watch ourselves, we make sure that like, are my signals crisp? Are they understandable? But there are certain points of what you try to do that don't require a crisp signal, because sometimes when you're crisp, you're perceived as a jerk. You look stiff. You look as like you're the authoritarian, and that's not what we're kind of shooting for. The idea is just to facilitate the game. You're supposed to facilitate. You're not a cop. Even for some of us that are police officers, you're not being a cop at the time. So the hardest part, I think, for a lot of people is the formal chat, right? Here but no further. How do you have that? What are you trying to achieve when you have it? So when we had this conversation in the group, my comment was, I would like it if the team doesn't infringe in this manner again, right? Hey, this is our second trip. This is our second trip to inside the 22. You are now under pressure again, and players are starting to slow down at rolling away from the rock. Players need to roll away from the rock. And yeah, it would be great if they went, hey, let's speed up rolling away. But at the same time, I sometimes believe it's like they just got beat by 80 meters to get down here, and now they're tired, and they just made a tackle, and now it's time to take a rest. So sometimes it's just to be able to tell the story, right? Hey, you guys are good in the other 80 meters, but now we're inside the 22 and you decide it's nap time. So you understand that I get to yellow card you the next time, but you're trying to manage away from that. This is your last ditch attempt trying to get them to change. Make sure that you're not yelling when you're doing this. You're in control, right? Because the whole idea is that you are now in control. Don't go over the top. Don't say, I'm talking now. When he comes over and he wants to talk about all the stuff, it's completely okay to just stand there and listen with nothing until he peters out. Yeah, you don't want to have him peter out in 10 minutes, but it's you acknowledge what he's got to say. Sir, they're holding us in. I see that, but if you put yourself in a better body position or something like that, right? If you put yourself in a better body position, they can't hold you in. Or I need to see the attempt, right? The flop and dead fish trying to get out of the way. But you have to wait for him to stop, acknowledge, and then transfer your issue, right? The idea of, no, okay, thank you. But here's the impetus of this conversation. This is you now talking with and to the captain. And make sure to have a conversational tone, right? Don't be all worried up, all that kind of stuff. You've put the time, you put time off. This is referee time. This is time for you to do your job. and it's not, it's not impacting play or anything like that, you put time off, now you get to talk. Listen to it. Is the message clear? What is the tone? So one of the things that I think that a lot of referees fail to recognize is especially when you're inside the 22, players are worried. Players are worried about letting up that additional try. So referees should put that at ease first, right? It's the whole thing about the pre-match chat of, if you do it in the middle of their warm-up, they're thinking about their warm-up. So do it before their warm-up and they don't have to worry about it. When the captain comes up to you and you've put time off, he might be worried that, and then you've talked to him and he understands, hey, I got to get my team to roll away. And you say, all right, so you've got that message to one of the 15. Now you got to get that information to the other 14. You have to make sure that that information gets proliferated. And if, as the captain goes, yes, sir, I will make sure that my players roll away, and he turns his back to you, you're not going to put time on, and Dan Bigger isn't going to cross-field kick to his winger and score a try, right? That's unfair. That's unfair because you've basically handicapped them. The thing that you should do, first of all, is once you're about to give that instruction, you can say, I'll let you know when time is on before it comes on. I'll make sure that you're okay, right? Same way that we do with kickoff to restart a half, right? You don't need to worry about the team that's about to kick off. They'll kick off when they're ready. But you'll say, Team White, you ready? And the captain gives you a little hidey ho and away we go. Don't put them at ease. So that way they can be in the most receptive form and their team can be in the most receptive form. So this is going to be hard for me to talk about because I am white noise extraordinaire. I am channel 99 on your old TV, right? It's all white noise. But don't make comments that you don't need to make. Don't initiate discussion with players that you don't need to. The only person that you really need to worry about with discussion is the captain. And only when you need to, right? If you could go through the entire game, be like some of the sevens referees sometimes. They play the game of how many words do you have to say in an entire tournament? The winner a couple of years ago, they did it one time and they said, okay, the only times that you're in between the whistles is when you can talk, but otherwise the only things that you're allowed to say are, I believe at the time it was crouch, touch, pause, engage, right? The winner had 3 words in 5 high quality sevens matches over an entire weekend. So if you start to see that you're starting to get sucked into these things, you can just pull up. Just pull up. Just say, okay, that's it. Internally. You don't have to say that out loud.
There's a video that I saw many years ago where USA sent a ref over to England on exchange. And the video was 2 clips, the first 2 minutes of his first game and the first 2 minutes of his second game. In the first game, he was just roll away, get outside. And after the game, his English coaches made him write down every word that he spoke as he watched the replay of the game. The second game, the first 2 minutes, he went, "Captain, ready?" That's about it.
I'd be very, don't tell Lee Johnson that, otherwise I'm gonna have to do that later. my feeling on myself is once you pop, the fun don't stop. And if I keep talking, once I start talking, I have a hard time stopping. So, so going back onto the body language, talk about, think about how you project yourself. Really watch yourself. I mean, so many teams videotape themselves. It is so easy. You get advantage. Everybody gets advantage. You are registered with USA Rugby as a referee. You have access to advantage. And yeah, you might not want to code the whole thing. And you know what? For some people, that's fine. But watch yourself. See the way that you move around the field. Is that the referee that you'll follow into the breach, that kind of thing. So yeah, thanks, Mark. That's the link to advantage. Making sure that people, they understand what you're talking about, right? Clear, crisp communication, but at the same time, not being rigid. This is not, you're not at parade rest when you're talking to people. You're not, smashing your hand into the ground when it's just, guy went off his feet. Okay. You get the idea across. Now it's easier to correct back to a softer way when you're starting out. So people that are watching this video, newer referees, I would 100% say, look at yourself in the mirror and do your primary and secondary hand signals. On your way to a match, blow a whistle, really talk about, think about, this is my penalty whistle, this is my try whistle, this is my free kick whistle, this is my scrum whistle, right? Those types of things. This is my end of the half. This is my end of the half whistle. This is my end of game whistle, right? Things that for the older referees, more experienced referees, things that they already know what they're doing, but it's easier to soften than it is to harden up through a match. So when you watch, how do you come across? I think this is right at the end here. Yes, it is. So just think about respect. One of the things that the EC is trying to regarner is with the teams is their respect of the society as a whole. Think about how you come across as a group, and then also as a group as a singular referee or team of three, right? Everything from, showing up on time, not looking disheveled, tuck your shirt in, proper jersey, that kind of stuff. Think about what's coming out of your mouth. Is it are you the demanding referee? Or are you the facilitator? That's it for me. Are there any questions from either gallery? Everybody can watch the video later. This report will come out, or the PowerPoint will come out. And you get to review that. Yeah, as Mark put, we have increased the match fees that referees are receiving. So that you need to come in with a little bit higher level of professionalism. Gone are the days of, hey, I forgot my touch, I forgot my flags, here's my warm-up shirt, hey, touch judge number 1. And I was going to change into these later, but here's my shorts, right? That kind of stuff. And then they get to put the flags up. No, show up properly and people will treat you properly. So yeah, All right, well, members of the executive committee. Any additional comments? Paul, Mark, I think I saw Lawrence on there.
Nothing for me. Thanks, guys.
Cool. That's that, 8:08. I will see everybody later. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Take care.